Hello, and welcome to the latest episode of the Jamf After Dark podcast, a podcast to introduce you to the people at Jamf, learn about what we're up to when it comes to managing and securing Apple devices, along with what is happening in the IT landscape. I'm your co-host, Kat Garbis, joined by co-host Sean Rabbitt.
Hello, Kat. Lovely Kat. Wonderful Kat. I love you, Kat. How are you doing, Kat?
I love you too. Where are you, actually? You look like you're in a sunny place.
I am in a sunny place. I am actually in beautiful California, just south of San Francisco right now, because I have, as of the recording of this podcast, just finished up the RSA conference for Jamf in downtown San Francisco there. So full week of conference people and working the booth and answering lots of questions. And let me tell you, if you get to go to a conference, those folks really want our branded Stanley mugs. They really do want those cups desperately. They're like, I had multiple people come up and be like, I'm a customer. Give me that. I'm like, whoa, calm it down. I love it. How about a t-shirt or a golf towel? It's like, no, I want the Stanley Cup right now. It's like, okay, well, you could win it. And I actually have in my possession the winning token for the high prizes that we gave away. So we had some great conversations there. Josh Yagfeld, our friends from Swift Connect, were there. We had presentations. Matt Woodruff was there. Matt Vlasak was there. They had a lovely theater in the back of our booth now at Jamf, and we were giving presentations. It was like a little mini JNUC. It was great.
That sounds so nice. Wish I was there. I haven't been to the Bay Area in a really long time, but you know who's also in the Bay Area?
Who else is in the Bay Area right now?
Our guest today, our special guest joining us for this recording today is from the Bay Area.
Special guests, say hi. Who are you? Where'd you come from? How did you find this weird Zencast recording room?
I don't know. I think I just stumbled in here. It's like the back of an RSA booth, I think. My name is Isaac Ordonez. I'm with Mann Consulting. I live in Berkeley, California. And I am a Jamf MSP, and have been working with Jamf products for a long time.
Don't
Define a
tell
long
too many people.
time.
Yeah. Well, define a long time, but define it in terms of what episode of The Simpsons was on at the time. So,
Oh, I only go with the color green as my definition of how long I've been working with it, because that was the background of the interface for Casper when we were using it originally.
nice.
Yeah.
So an OG customer, OG partner.
Yeah.
So Isaac, I know you. Sean kind of knows you. Our listeners may not know you. What is Mann Consulting? How do you work with us? What do you do with our products? Talk to us a little bit about that.
So we're kind of a non-traditional managed service provider, I would say. We leverage Jamf as kind of the core to a lot of our offerings for customers. We do manage IT services, but we are a little out of the you're not allowed to have access kind of realm. So we have a lot of co-managed instances with customers and co-managed IT services where we're more part of their overall department. And we work with a bunch of different products, and Jamf is kind of the core. It keeps the glue it's the glue for Meraki and Google and Okta and everything else.
And when you say managed services or managed service provider, usually we throw the term MSP around for short, but maybe in a nutshell for some of our listeners who might be unfamiliar, I think most would be, but just in case, you're basically supporting, owning to a degree, a little asterisk around the owning, but you're maintaining their Jamf instance for them. You're maybe providing IT services. You're the outsourced IT admin. Is that fair description of kind of what you're all doing?
Yeah, that's a fair description. And we're doing a lot of code inside of Jamf. I kind of like to say that we almost write applications that run inside of Jamf to complete and automate functions, like updating certain applications or meeting compliance. We do that across a lot of instances.
But ask a question that's a little bit out of left field, so hopefully it doesn't catch it too off guard. But who would be the ideal customer for someone like you, or even just as a managed service provider in general, but you first?
Us first, we have actually a very, very large client base type. We have a couple Jamf instances that are literally like 4 or 5 Jamf clients that are like in a VC, and they maybe are high touch, all the way over to enterprise and government and healthcare. I think for us, a high security kind of desire is typically where our customers land. We find that for using an MSP in general, needs can vary, but sometimes just IT needing a little extra support. Having a consistent Jamf admin that's maybe always there and has the historical for a decade, right? Is helpful.
It's a good answer. I like that.
Isaac, I'm going to dovetail a little bit off of Sean's question. Why would someone go with a managed service provider over like in-house IT or security support? Why would someone pick like a Mann Consulting or another managed service provider? Why outsource that?
A couple of reasons. One, we're not a head count, so we work with a lot of startups that maybe don't want to dish out equity to everybody. So sometimes it's an easy, just, you pay while you're using us or another MSP. Continuity. If you have 2 or 3 people working on an account from a team of people, vacation time, those types of things don't really kind of hamstring projects. And
Turnover, I'd imagine too, right? Like
turnover. I mean, setting up a Jamf instance is fun. And just like a lot of services, you build it and then you're kind of like, well, it's done. Maybe I'll go somewhere else and build another one. So I do see that a lot frequently of kind of, coming in, doing. And so we can provide that continuity for a long time.
And you being a longtime partner of Jamf, you're supporting customers as well. You've been in the community for a little while. I wanted to have you kind of just share with the group, like what are some of the JNUC talks you've done, and are you planning on coming to JNUC 2025 and talking there too, maybe?
I've submitted 3 sessions.
I hope all 3 get accepted.
I don't.
As someone who did 7 one year, I can tell you absolutely you don't want 3 sessions, but
Okay. I know.
somehow
Okay.
I signed up for 3 too, so I understand.
I was actually asking around to see if there was a number to hit. If 7 is the number, I have no interest in trying to break the record. So in the past, I've done a number of JNUC sessions. In the historical, it was kind of an intro to Jamf for a new user or admin. I did a session on deploying DigiCert certificates to devices for Wi-Fi authentication. I did a session last year on flawless MDM communication, kind of hyper-focusing on clients actually communicating with the Jamf instance and how to use automations to validate that all of your computers are still doing what they're supposed to be doing, as opposed to just trusting that they are. I feel like there was one more, but I forgot. It's really been a while.
That's okay. That's a good starting point, though, because I feel like you've touched on a few areas. You've touched on a bit of like applications. You've touched on, in a way, automation as well. You've touched on compliance. You've touched a little bit on security. So I think it's a really well-rounded approach for today's conversation. And I guess I'll kind of start with some of the things you mentioned, not only in some of your previous JNUC talks, but also how you're supporting customers. Like, what are some of the top areas you're supporting your customers with? I know you said earlier Jamf Pro is like the core of it. And you mentioned you've spoken at JNUC about some of the applications, automations. Can you talk to us a little bit about those top areas you're supporting your customers and some of your personal expertise around that?
Sure. One of the major areas that I've been actually looking at right now is network authentication and basic access to certain services on trusted devices, right? That device trust. Um, I've been tinkering a lot with using Okta's Skep server to authenticate to a Meraki wireless network automatically. That's been a focus because they're giving us a certificate for device trust. Why don't I use that for the network? And trying to make these services work together. So that's been a heavy focus. And another focus that I've been really looking at is this like concept of 100% compliance, which seems to be so fleeting. It's always 99.6. I don't know if you've looked at your patch reporting recently, but it's just not 100. So
There's always that one dude that goes on vacation just when the patch needs to be released, and it's like a 0 day that you need to get done, and their computer's turned off, and it's like, why? Why did you do this?
Exactly. It's like trying to figure out like, why am I never there? And is it okay that I'm never there? And so that's been a hyper focus as of late. And I think I have a couple JNUC sessions that maybe we'll cover that in different areas, but we'll see.
To be continued on that. Sean's ears for sure perked up when you were talking about having trust in between devices. Can you talk a little bit more and share what you can share? Obviously, I don't want to get you in trouble or anything or have you overshare and tell everyone how the sausage is made. But we would love to hear a little bit more of like some of at a high level, like what are some of the problems that you're solving for some of your customers to help them with that trusted access that it sounds like you're looking for, whether it's between network or between devices. Be interested in hearing a little bit about that.
Yeah, we've there's always the question of, should somebody be accessing work email on their child's school laptop that then goes to school, right? Like, maybe no.
How could that possibly go wrong? I mean,
No, I'm right.
absolutely,
I
you
don't
know.
have kids, but I'm like, people do that?
Well, Arlo can,
How many times is
Arlo's
the
my
latest
golden
Bluey
retriever,
episode?
everyone. He doesn't even have opposable thumbs, but we'll run with it. Okay,
yeah,
Isaac.
go.
You know he's got a Disney Plus account and is watching Bluey, though. That's the trick. I mean,
Yes,
I
yeah.
do put
so
Disney Plus on for my dogs.
yeah.
They love like the National Geographic and Lion King, CGI. It's Arlo's favorite.
So on trust, we've been working with a lot of there's a lot of ways to implement device trust, and a lot of it depends on your technology stack and what you already have, right? So if you're trying to introduce trust for sign on to applications, sometimes you need to use Okta's device trust. But if you're not using Okta and you're using Duo instead, then you need to use theirs. So we have this we've built trust in a lot of different scenarios. No two I never find two to be the same, which is really interesting. Everybody always has one product that just throws the entire like cookie cutter process into a loop, right? If you're using a service like Jamf Connect, maybe you have one service that doesn't do IP allow listing. So you can't restrict access by IP address all of a sudden. And now you need to look at the entire picture again. You go, okay, well, how do I deal with that one? And
We
with companies
joke
nowadays,
internally, like, trusted access is not a SKU, it's not a part number, it's what's unique to your organization, like, just something comes up all the time in conversations with me. Jamf Connect, like, well, I need to make sure they're on a compliant device before they can log in. It's like, hold that thought. What if the device falls out of compliance? What has got an update? How do I log into the device to update it, to get it compliant, to log into the device so it can be compliant so I can log in? You're killing me here, guys. You're killing me. Think what
yeah,
trust access really means in your scenario.
yeah, exactly. Like what's your, like, we have some customers that look, if you're not on Sequoia right now and you have a update that has been pending for more than 30 days, you get a restrictions profile that blocks Chrome, Zoom, Slack, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, automatically. And if you want to use Chrome again, there's an update.
I like that. I like that idea. A little bit of carrot, a little bit of stick. I like it.
It is.
Yep.
It's a little bit of pain. It's enough to go, okay, well, I think I need to do something.
But you can still
But
get into your email. That's that's a good one.
yeah, you can still maybe leave a channel open so they can get to IT. Those types of things that we push heavily for automation, opposed to manual remediation of anything. I'm not a fan of having to push a button once a month.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of trusting the user to actually go and push the button either.
Yeah.
So automation is your friend.
It is.
Also fair.
Yeah, and so is enforcement. I found the reboot is a magical stick with update avoidance and other things. If you're really kind of in that area where they have to do it, sometimes being like, "Oh, looks like the update failed. Well, we're going to restart for you anyways. Thank you." For when they cancel, they've done a cancel a log out or something like that.
You're very kind. Tim Knox, he works here. Uh, he also used to manage devices too before he became a Jamf employee, and then I worked for a managed service provider as well. My favorite is he had a naughty list. I never called it that, but he definitely called it that, and I feel like you could also benefit from a naughty list of people who are deferring all the things, and you're trying to, like, stay compliant, get them what they need, and, um, we did do this, though, same thing as Tim. If they were on the naughty list, and they deferred things so many times, there's nothing they could do except for that update. Like, you can't check messages, you can't check email, forget Slack or Teams. The only thing you could do is press the update button, and that actually happened to me once here. I deferred so many times. It wasn't a security update. I was like, "Oh, it's just a little update, whatever." The highest I deferred, and IT was so gracious. I think it was, like, over 50. Like, it was one of those things I deferred it, like, 50 times. It was, like, I wanna say it was just a regular, like, Safari update, and I just was, like, on the road and stuff, but I was like, "Oh, I'm on the naughty list. I'm on someone's naughty list today because there is nothing I can do but run this update that is going to, like, update Safari and a few other little things in the back end, and though it's not mission critical, I'm on someone's naughty list right now." Hearing you talk about that took me back to that core memory when I was also on someone's naughty list here at Jamf.
Some companies will just cut off services, which I found to be extremely interesting. Like, great, your Okta account no longer works. You need to run your update.
Yeah.
Yeah, that
Call us.
communication between the services, I think is probably where you come in the most there with being an MSP too. It's the, hey, Jamf Pro says this is not compliant. How do I tell Okta to do that? That's not something just standard out of the box. So
No,
that's
it's not. We do a lot of API work. Like, my life now, I read Jamf Pro and XML. And
it's just a matrix now to you. It's all right there. Just
it is like most workflows, like a policy workflow with a smart group and everything. I create it by creating an XML file for the smart group, and then I create an XML file for the policy. And even if I'm using it once, I've made the mistake that I will probably end up using it again. And that's now I have to make the XML after I already did it through the GUI.
Whoops.
I know.
I
I will
imagine
say
things
this,
like
though.
blueprints are probably going to make your life a lot easier too if you can actually have the device be declarative and keep itself up to date with and say, hey, by such and such time, you must update your operating system. So
Yes, I am heavily, but I still need the I'm waiting for the day where it's an automation. I don't know if you've ever watched Lost, and I reference this so many times. There was a guy in a cave who had to push a button once an hour. He didn't know why he had to push the button once an hour, but he did. Sometimes with software updates, I feel like that person where every time Apple releases an update, I got to go somewhere and push a button.
In a
And as an
cave,
MSP, in a
specifically.
cave, specifically, yeah.
Specifically, yeah, okay.
You can't see my video, but I'm actually in a cave right now. Um, but as an MSP, we have to do that 100 plus times. That's a lot of little buttons. So I'm looking for the day of if Apple releases an update, then it applies within X number of days. The story is over.
That's fair, and people like me cannot end up on naughty list. I will say this, though, to our IT's credit, when it is a security update, there is no 50 deferences. It's, like, way, way, way less than that, so credit to our security and our IT teams there, 'cause, but, yeah, I mean, I feel you there, though, and as the user, right, like, there's that balance of IT, you searching for compliance, you searching to keep things on track, right? Like steering the ship in the right direction. Then
Mhm.
there's people like me who's like, I got to get my job done and I'm so busy with all these millions of things, but there has to be a pause in all of that. And I want to go back to a little bit of what you mentioned earlier. Earlier, you had said your compliance is really important to you. Earlier, you had said that you're striving for 100% compliance. How are you having compliance conversations with your customers? Like, if I'm on the naughty list, right? Like, like, how are you having conversations with your customers about compliance? And they're in that 95 to 98% range, which is amazing, by the way, of being almost compliant. But how are those conversations going? How are you leveraging Jamf to support with compliance?
So, the conversation I've learned that if you try and come at it, especially with companies that don't have an IT department or maybe are a little less tech heavy, coming at it from this is what IT should do doesn't usually work. But if you come at it with well, your cyber insurance policy requires so that you could be covered in the event of you know, an incident, really kind of changes the conversation from, well, IT's forcing you to do this thing I don't want to, oh, that's going to be expensive. Um, and so I usually drive with that as far as getting compliance into, enabled and turned on. And then from there, I provide recurring reports. We do a lot of pulling from the Jamf API to provide an actual nice little report card that says, hey, here's some really easy things that you're either doing great on or not. And it'll start a conversation on good or bad.
I like that
Um,
idea, report card, like a little,
yeah,
"Hey, here's a little complaint." Like, I actually love that. I think that's a great idea. I think more
it's great.
people could benefit from something like that. That's awesome.
It's great. And it doesn't have to be it doesn't have to be the most technical things. One of the examples that we use is one of the compliance items we put in is, does your hardware support Sequoia? You have 6 computers in your org that just can't get the latest update and won't get a security patch. And the employee may not be productive. Simple. And it does keep procurement moving forward and a bunch of other things. So, another one that we found that it, it has helped immensely with the numbers is actually detecting activity. If a computer is not used within 14 days, maybe it's time to shut it down.
Yeah, where did that computer go? Why is it sitting there turned on and no one's using it? It's a little strange.
They're using their child's Chromebook
Yeah.
for work.
Oh, no. Oh, no.
But there's a number of reasons, right? Like if computer is just not checking in, or it's checking in because it's in power net mode. Because it's interesting, Apple Silicon devices, they do check in on network state change when they're asleep and power when they're plugged into power. So you can actually get a heartbeat from a computer that can't run an update. It can't do anything, but it just continues to report out of compliance further, which is
Oh,
problematic.
yeah.
So in that case, we throw you're turning off now. When you're ready to be used again, somebody will press the power button.
I love that. I think that's a really great approach. That way things are whatever's being used, right? Like it's not just sitting out there waiting for either an issue, a problem, or to go in the wrong direction, right? We're trying to strive for 100% compliance. The longer it's on, the longer it's not used, the longer Kat Garbis defers updates, right? Like it's just going to take us further back away from that goal of 100%. So I think that's really awesome. When we had spoken, you had also mentioned something about using like launch daemons running as root. I would love to hear whatever you can share about that and being modifiable by users and
Sure.
something around privilege escalation. Would love to hear kind of your thought process and thought leadership around that.
So this was something that came that comes up. We not only do we deploy a lot of the standard security controls, we also create our own for things that we identify as a real world need. So one example of that is uh, launch daemons are installed by applications. Launch daemons are typically run as root at startup of the system. Apple requires that the plist file for a launch daemon be owned by root with the group wheel, and that it have very secured permissions. But Apple doesn't actually have any requirements on the target binaries that are being run. So if you have a secured plist file that is executing a file that is owned by maybe root staff and has write permissions from staff, you have a scenario where a non-privileged user can edit a file that is going to be launched by root. And when they edit that file, they can do things like add themselves to the sudoers file, or edit the authorizations database, or do something else to further their permission. And we wrote a compliance script that actually goes and iterates through all the launch daemons and sorts everything out. It's an extension attribute. And then it reports back to us ones that we found that really need to be reported to the vendor. Adobe got one. Good Old Games, GOG.com, I think it was. Logitech got one. Adobe fixed it. GOG said they couldn't figure it out. Logitech said, well, we don't support that anymore, so we're not updating it. But this is like common software that everybody runs. Like when you look at patching, people are like, oh, I don't want to patch Spotify. It's like, why? It runs a launch daemon. Like you need to patch. Like that's the more important one. Like either allow torrent clients and patch them or remove them, but you got to pick one.
I think you're striking on something like things that people assume couldn't be problematic. Like, I would
Yeah,
never assume Spotify to be problematic at face value. But then when you kind of start talking about, well, this is what it has available to it, then it's like,
yeah,
oh, well,
yeah,
you know what? Isaac might be onto something there.
yeah. So with the launch daemons, basically, going back, we created these custom workflows to detect and then remediate that kind of blind spot that we find a lot. Like most controls talk about screensaver lock time, but not can somebody privilege escalation as a standard user? Not usually.
Speaking of slightly related subjects to this
Yeah.
background tasks and service configurations, I just want to throw out, if you are interested in this new declarative management of those options right now, and you happen to have a conversation with your Jamf SE anytime soon, we actually literally just today, because I just got the notice of it, we have actually a demonstration of how blueprints and declarative device management can actually manage some of these background tasks and manage some of the service configurations for those files in action. And we can have a conversation about that. So if you want to if you as one of our 7 listeners want to reach out and listen to uh, or learn more about the extreme nerditry that we were talking about here of beautiful launch daemons and things, reach out to your account executive, reach out to an SE. We have this demonstration in a thing called Experience Jamf, where you can actually try it out either on a real machine or a virtual machine and see it in action and get some documentation. So looking forward to folks there being able to play with that. We're slowly working towards these things that Apple's given us access to. So
I'm excited for blueprints to really evolve and mature.
speaking of blueprints and compliance, by the way, Isaac, I hear you have
Yeah.
very strong opinions about Jamf account, and wanted to chat about that a little bit there, because of course you need to set up Jamf account if you want to get access to that in
Y-
your Jamf Pro server.
Yeah. So, look, I was a holdout on Jamf account when, we were given early access to it. And I was like, this is a bad idea. I don't like this.
Were
I,
you
th-
deferring it like your friend
I,
Kat?
I might have been just deferring it. Look, as an MSP, we have some really unique challenges, right? I have a lot of Jamf instances. Sometimes I have to SSO into the instance and my customer needs to SSO into the instance. Like there's a lot of like nuances that we don't just see in a typical one-to-one scenario. And I actually sat down with Jamf account about a month ago and I was like, okay, blueprints are here. I need to get this going. I love it. Uh, it's really starting to unify the Jamf experience with making products a little easier to sign on to with a single account. It has enabled us to have co-managed SSO. It also has kind of closed a long time kind of, I guess, gripe of mine, which is you can't really just-in-time provision users into Jamf Pro. Sometimes they need to like exist there. So when you're doing your offboarding, you have another added checklist item. And I found out that you can just-in-time provision admins based off of group access in IDP. So if they are in the Jamf admins group in your Okta tenant, they are a Jamf admin.
One of my favorite features ever. It's like, yes, I don't have to go press a button in Jamf Pro and in Okta and in the 14 other places. It just does it. Yay.
Yeah. And I come into customers instance all the time that, they're like, hey, our person left. Here's our instance. And there's like 90 admins there. Like, who are all these people? And they're like, oh yeah, they're all gone. Like,
not one of those things that's going to win friends and influence people when you get your audit done for security, just so you know. Having access for people who aren't at the company, not popular amongst auditors. Yeah, not popular. So,
and Jamf Account fully enables us here, and it's really, really been working well. We've been really pushing Jamf Account across our all of our instances, and the rollout's been fairly seamless. I wrote a couple blog posts about how to set up certain things. I was finding the nuances.
Where could we find said blog posts?
I post at ordonez.tv.
Can you spell that for our listeners?
Yeah, we'll put that in the description of the podcast for sure.
Exactly.
I don't even know how to pronounce it, even after you said it.
ordonez.tv, like television. .com and .net were taken.
Clear as mud. Perfect. I like it.
Yeah. Sorry. But I did a couple posts for both MSPs and co-managed SSO with Jamf Account, and also just using Jamf Account with groups. Right now, Okta and Entra are the only IDP supported for it. But if you're using Google Workspaces, I highly recommend.
Theoretically, any identity provider that is OIDC compliant that can send a group's information can do it.
Yes.
So actually, that's my task for this afternoon, is read through the ping one documentation to make sure it's got that. But yeah, like you said, Google. Oh, Google.
I know.
Google. Someday it'll grow up and be a real identity provider. But
I know.
It does
Don't
not
talk about
groups.
Google like that. They're a real provider, okay?
They're a valued partner of Jamf, but they do not send the group attributes, unfortunately. So
one day.
Very sad. Yes.
Isaac, I wanted to also pick your brain a little bit, because we talked about management. We talked about some of the ways you're supporting your customers with Jamf Pro. We talked about compliance. Stemming from compliance and Jamf Account, I just wanted to hear a little bit. Are you using Jamf Protect as well? I believe you are.
We are.
I'm curious. How are you using our security software to support your customers? Because I feel like it's one of those solutions that people are like, we use it, but then no one wants to talk about security at all. So I guess I'll just say, without sharing identifiable info, if you have any examples or just anything you want to share with us of how you're using Jamf Protect to help your accounts, because I'm also curious if you're using anything else or if you've used anything else, because we are pretty Apple focused, and a lot of folks are like, we got something cross-platform, maybe not see the value, or this is perhaps redundant. I'd be curious on your thoughts, since you are using Jamf Protect to support your customers. What are some of the things you've seen as perhaps an added value, or what are the things you found that cross-platforms solutions just weren't cutting it?
We use it. I'm kidding. Sorry.
That's all he can say.
Great answer. That was a great answer.
So It's interesting because sometimes we have security departments that are leading the conversation, and sometimes we are leading the conversation. Sometimes something in the middle is leading the conversation. Um, so we deploy Jamf Protect in a lot of different fashions. One of them is primary kind of EDR/antivirus solution that is the one that is there doing the things that really check that box for the uh, insurance part. And then also generating alerts and kind of keeping it at a very low level. Like don't overly gather data. We don't have a team of people that can now go read the unified logging. And then on other sides, we do work with companies. Am I allowed to name other vendors on this?
Uh, if they're friends of ours, yes, you can say things like Red Canary, they're fine, and
There
Okta,
you go.
Google, and
So
Microsoft.
we have customers that sometimes have other products that do different security tasks. And Jamf Protect actually snaps in to handle certain things. One example is the unified logging, bringing that data up to Splunk or somewhere where they can then really dig through it and monitor their systems. We've just started to integrate in the network threat prevention. I think Jamf account has kind of been helping drive that because for a while I had a lot of portals and a lot of accounts, and scaling that across 70, 80, 90, 100 instances became a lot.
App Switcher is coming. I swear it will be
Yeah.
demonstrated at beautiful Jamf Nation Live soon. So this coming month. So
I can't.
yes,
So wait, if I go to the one tomorrow in San Francisco, I'm going to see that.
here's hoping.
Oh,
That's one of the
sorry.
things that we're going to be showing. So
Okay. Yeah.
Sean dropping
we pro-
spoilers on the
we
podcast.
I know we promised it at JNUC. You're going to see it. So that's the trick. Yeah.
So yeah, we kind of, it really varies on our Protect deployment. It, we haven't integrated it as much as Jamf Pro, mainly because, everyone, the amount of stuff that you do in Pro, like you deploy Protect, you deploy this, deploy that, is so just like you're constantly in there. Whereas Protect, one thing I love is it's a little more set it and forget it.
You're absolutely right. It's like you could just put it in there with the basic settings with no other press button. Just say deploy the agent, and you've got 99% of your security right there. It's all the other stuff that you want to do, like you said, the unified logging or advanced
Mhm.
security or dumping into the SIM of your choice. That's where you start going and pressing buttons and winning cookies.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you just have something out there that can report on what Gatekeeper's actually doing, that's really nice. Again, the auditors and the compliance folks really like being able to say, "Oh yeah, we really are up to date and protected." Yay!
Yeah.
Has it ever caught anything? Like, have you ever had, like, someone with an alert?
Yes, we have had some alerts. There was an instance where I think one of the vendors got um uh their website got hacked. I forget who it was, but a malicious copy of an app was put up, and um we got some alerts and some sort of like this didn't happen. Um
Wow.
so that was useful. There's also, I feel like the double click Mac malware has definitely dwindled a lot since Gatekeeper makes it so hard to open.
Which is a
Um,
good thing.
it's a great thing. It's good to have the like, well, you can't even open this. But with Homebrew out there and people just installing and unsigned code being run through that, I feel like it's still important to have.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you answering that question. I've seen it kind of going both ways where it's like caught an alert, but it's also been like a non-issue where it's like, oh wow, I didn't realize there was like a network traffic thing going on. Um,
Yeah.
right. And it's like you've received an alert, this has been quarantined, no action required on your end. But it's always like, I don't want to say nice to see it in the wild, but it's nice to hear that if something's come up you've got Metaler and it hasn't like flown under the radar or that sort of thing. So that's been really that's good to hear because it's like you wouldn't particularly know for sure if someone hacked your website unless you got some sort of something notifying you that it happened, or if you did discover it, it might be a significant gap in time between when you would have noticed it on your own. Um,
We don't
any
want you to get hacked, but if you
we,
do, we'd want you to
yeah,
know that you did. So that's good. Yes. So
what Sean said. What Sean said. Um, any anything you want to leave the team with? Any questions that Sean and I forgot to ask you, or any stories you want to share from the Bay Area? I don't know. Like, um, just want to throw it out there if there's anything we didn't cover that you wanted to passionately talk about today.
Um, if I think right now it's the thing that I love, and I think that I think will help everybody when they are building out things, and I just kind of always want to impart this on people is see if you can not just instead of just patching, prove it, and that really helps getting data as to what's going on, and it will make your patching better and also make your employee experience better. The amount of good information I've gotten from fire hosing scripts to Datadog and then putting them into spreadsheets and realizing that, oh, 6 people had this issue. And every time I fix that, I'm like, wow, I just made 6 people's lives better. Uh, out of thousands upon thousands who were fine. But um, I really love this idea of, getting data out of the API and putting it somewhere and then doing something with it. And actively, managing it. Something I love it when open source projects or people release projects where they're like, oh, we get all this data from the Jamf API and then we do X with it. So
It's the doing something about it part, in my opinion, and I think that's yeah, that's great.
that's why you have the expertise of an MSP to be able to know what to do with it afterwards. So I like it.
yeah.
Well,
Isaac,
Isaac,
thank you so very, very much for joining us here today. And if we did want to tell people where to find Man Consulting and how to get in touch with you, where would we go?
We would go to mann.com.
Two N's,
Noting that the
rabbit with
two
two
N's,
T's. Yes.
exactly. Because the one N doesn't take you to our company site. You can also find me as Isaac on Slack, Mac Admin Slack, not just every Slack.
I'm looking
But
for
man,
Isaac and just go in random Slack room.
you can try the Jamf Slack. It may or may not be there. I'm lurking somewhere. So if you look at man.com, there's information about our services. There's information about our workflows, our co-management functionalities, and how we can kind of help you build your Jamf instance out, manage it, and maybe maintain some of the low-hanging fruits, or on the opposite side, sometimes take care of the larger projects and let you manage other parts of the instance.
And get to 100% compliance.
And get you 100% compliance. Exactly.
Well, as Sean put it, thank you so much for being here. We'll be rooting for you and keeping an eye out as they start announcing JNUC 2025 sessions. We hope to see all 3 sessions on there. Full disclosure, if it is at 8 a.m. after the JNUC party, I will not be there. But if you have a session at that time, I can't promise I'll be at that one, but I'll be at all of your other ones. Isaac, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you both for having me.
Sean, do we have a tech tip today?
We don't quite have a tech tip as much as a hey announcement out there for folks. I don't think that this podcast is going to make it in time for the folks to be in San Francisco May 6th at the Hilton Union Square, or Austin at the Doubletree Austin on May 8th. But you might be able to make it to the New York City May 13th, Jamf Nation Live at the Hilton Martinique, or you may be able to make it to the Boston May 15th, Thursday at Hilton Boston Back Bay, or our final one, the Chicago event at Tuesday, May 20th. There's also some education events out there. So if you are interested in joining Jamf Nation Live and maybe getting a little bit of swag and some previews of some interesting stuff that we've announced at JNUC that you can get access to, you as well as possibly some JNUC discounts, by the way. You might be some codes happening there. Reach out to your account executive, reach out to your SE, reach out to all your favorite friends at Jamf, and they will get you information on how you can sign up.
Well, we hope to see you all at the Jamf Nation Live road shows. Before we close out, I did want to thank our dear friend Sean for being my co-pilot these last 2 years on the podcast, being my friend for much longer. But he is departing Jamf and therefore departing the podcast. So this is our final recording with Sean. And I just want to say thank you so much for all of your contributions. I I will need to find a co-pilot. I don't want to replace you, but I loved all the work you've done, and you've brought just such a fun flair to the podcast, whether it be your expertise or your personality. We are going to miss having you on here, and you're just a wonderful human, and we wish you the best on your next career journey.
Well, thank you very, very much. It's been an honor and a pleasure to be with you all here and all 7 listeners. To that end, it's like me having a turn in my badge and my gun. I have to give you the the pieces of my station here for you. So here are all the remaining listener number 7 stickers, as well as my scepter of sarcasm, which I then grant onto you to pass on to the next generation. So thank you all for having me for these 2 years. I appreciate it.
Thank
And
you, Sean.
you'll have to keep an eyeball out, because now you might see that there's 8 listeners, because I'm going to have to listen to the podcast since I'm not here for it all the time. But chances are that it will probably only still be the 7 listeners. I don't know if I count, so it's all good.
You count in my heart.
I appreciate that. Well, this is the last one, so another podcast completed. And Jamf After Dark is a podcast from Jamf, and it's copyright 2025, all rights reserved. Technical details and product offerings may change at any time, so please always check jamf.com for the latest information on our products and services.
You can reach out to us if you have questions or comments or suggested show topics. And of course, we love fan mail. Simply send a friendly email to info@jamf.com with the subject line "Attention to the Podcast." We're also a sponsor of the Mac Admins Foundation, and several Jamfs are available on the Mac Admins Slack channel, even Isaac. And of course, if you need support, visit support.jamf.com to open a ticket and get your technical questions answered.
You can find me on that Mac Admins Slack as well. I am just Rabbit. Remember, Rabbit with 2 T's. It's Rabbit like Eddie. I love a rainy night, not Rabbit like Easter. Totally different thing. So special thanks to Isaac from Mann Consulting, our guest this week. And as always, the M&Ms, the famous Merlin and Martin, who make us sound great here at Jamf. Thank you for being our audio engineers and putting up with my craziness. Until next time, for Kat Garbis, I'm Sean Rabbitt.
And for the final time for Sean Rabbitt, I'm Kat Garbis, and we will catch you after dark again. Good morning, good night, good afternoon, and thank you.
And go buy your mom an iPhone.